So just as you wrap up your taxes for this year, brace yourself for some more. In his new budget proposal, President Obama does what he does best. He increases your taxes. Sure, he goes after the usual culprits like itemized deductions and credit cuts for major oil companies. But did you know your Apple Teeny is at risk? Oh, yes. And there are more bizarre new taxes. Mattie Duppler is with Americans for Tax Reform. What struck you as bizarre in this one, and how is my Apple Teeny at risk?
Right. Well, besides the risk of your Apple Teeny, there's quite the slew of taxes coming down the pipe if the Obama budget were enacted. The interesting thing that you led the segment off with is that this isn't the usual list of boogeyman that Obama likes to go after. Normally it's corporations, it's the wealthy. What he has in this budget is actually a list of very regressive tax hikes that will hit the lower and middle income workers in this country. You know, the tobacco tax in his budget proposal that's supposedly going to fund education programs. This is an extremely regressive tax. This is something that, of course, the president had campaigned on, not raising taxes on anyone making over $250,000 a year. And it took him 16 days into his presidency to sign the first tobacco tax increase into law. So now we're at this again. President Obama is going back to his same grab bag of tax hikes, not only on the wealthy, but also on the middle income earners.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the other ones, because you mentioned tobacco. That's a huge one. Dennis Neal here was talking about this earlier in the week and how it overwhelmingly hits low-income Americans. They are more likely to smoke, it turns out, statistics show, so it really hits the people who can't afford it the most. What, flavored vodka? Seriously?
Well, and here's the interesting thing, too, about President Obama. President Obama talks constantly about how we need some kind of big, grand deficit reduction. We need to all come together and talk about some big budget plan. Look at this budget proposal. What he's doing is hammering away at certain tax treatment in the code to raise revenue for his deficit reduction plan. But is the country really hanging in the balance because of the tax treatment of flavored vodka or the tax treatment of corporate jets, as he's fond of saying? The answer is no. So what you're looking at a budget plan that introduces more complexity to the tax code, not less, in order to fund more government, not to do anything about debt and deficits.
But does it really fund more government? Because with a lot of these, it always looks like they don't actually generate that much revenue, that they're good for headlines and for getting people riled up, but they don't necessarily generate very much revenue.
Well, exactly, and that's the other peculiar thing about this budget that includes taxes like excise taxes on tobacco, that sort of thing. You know, it's a shrinking base. These are sorts of taxes that, when applied, an excise tax, when applied to a good, you get less of it because people buy less of it. You know, that's a shrinking base for your revenue source. Same to do with all the rest of these taxes in this budget. It's an interesting concept. The president continues to talk about unhealthy habits, and his Democrat allies like Mayor Bloomberg. They want to tax habits that they don't find healthy, which might be your Apple Teeny in this case as well. But at the end of the day, they want to also rely on these revenues for these programs that we know are not going to be cheap. So, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, and it's not quite clear where we're supposed to take what they're saying.
Another one that got my attention during the Masters right now was golf courses. They can no longer be claimed as charitable giving tax deductions. What does that mean?
Well, here's the thing. We're looking at all of these obscure tax credits and deductions and the way the tax code treats separate things, like a golf course or a flavored vodka. These are very diverse items and kind of random when you think about it.
It's pretty random.
The problem is, and of course, these are kind of absurd that we're talking about deducting a golf course as a charitable deduction. The problem is that instead of taking these kinds of complexities in the tax code, getting rid of them to use them for tax reform, the president wants to get rid of them to spend more. He wants to get rid of them to grow the size of government. So this is going in the opposite direction of what the country needs. If the president thinks he needs more revenue, he needs to be focusing on economic growth, and that would require comprehensive tax reform that is revenue neutral, that could use all the space in the tax code with all these credits deductions to lower rates and increase productivity.
Mattie, thanks so much for coming on. Have a great weekend.
Thanks a lot. You too.